It didn't take much more than a bottle and 2 chairs to make a speakeasy. This is what Daniel Okrent said in his book, Last Call, The Rise and Fall of Prohibition. Today, join us for some stories. Get your own bottle, glass, or mug, and relax. This is Speak Easily, and I'm your host, Krista Stauffer.
It's also really good to see another person.
I'm ready. I'm 100% ready for this.
How, as a society, nation, state, city, whichever one you want to start with, did we get here?
Well, and to answer that question, I'm gonna give you the Donte Woods-Spikes version, not the CNN, not the Fox News, not the MSNBC,
Thank you for that.
not the blog that's been shared that's outdated from 10 years ago that nobody sat down and tried to really figure out who wrote it, opinionated Arnold or Bob. That's not even a part of a credible news source. I'm going to speak from my perspective. Right now, the pandemic was the first thing that really started and caused people to make a shift in their everyday lives. So with that shift of some people losing their jobs, not going to work, their routine being broken, they had to stay home, and things that they probably never thought about, they had to think about. Things they never felt, they had to feel. Things they didn't do, they had time to do. And with being able to knock that time out or address certain things that you never address, once you address it, now you're like, oh man, I got more time. So with that happening in the middle of COVID taking place, another incident with a police officer took place. And I believe the reason that specific incident really caught everyone's eyes and the response that's taking place right now is taking place is because we all had no choice but to look at it, but to see it. And, sometimes people are saying like, why would anybody get so upset about that? It only happened there. But if you really break down what's been going on and what's been said for the longest about Black people in their lives and the constant deaths that take place when it comes to engagement with police officers, this is absolutely nothing new. If you go all the way back to the very beginning, when Black men were brought here to America, it has been normalized to see their deaths all the time, everywhere. Everybody knows that. That's not a secret in any way, shape, or form. And people have been saying things, like with the Black Lives Matter movement, from Trayvon Martin to Michael Brown to the women, to Sandra Bland, Corinne Gaines, all of these different people that have lost their lives when situations like that come up. It's been talked about, but people have had the opportunity to not pay attention to it if they didn't want to.
Right.
But the thing about this death, it was probably the slowest, most gruesome, evil-looking thing I ever seen in my life.
Yeah.
To sit there with your knee on somebody's neck for that long, and to have your hands in your pockets and not even budging, it's like not even thinking twice about this person's life. How do you even feel comfortable doing that? First of all, to me, I'm like, if it's almost like when you seen a person hunt before. And after they hunt, they take a picture with the dead animal. I was really looking at that like, this man, it looked like he just hunted this man. And he's sitting there proud of what he has done. I don't know if he blacked out. I don't know if he snapped. I don't know what it was. Yeah. But I was looking at that. I was so uncomfortable. Like anybody that's listening to this, I just want you to take one of the most precious, valuable things you have. And I want you to put your knee on it. I bet you it'll break. You won't even do it because either the physical attributes of it will be broken, or you're going to hurt your own knee, or you may have an emotional attachment to it and you feel like that might be some form of disrespect. So if anybody can understand and comprehend that, why could anybody debate what had took place with George Floyd in any way, shape, or form? As Black people in America, we are the children of slaves, people that couldn't walk on one side of the street or go to a restaurant because of their skin color, people that couldn't go to schools because of their skin color, people that couldn't go to a psychiatrist or psychologist, whoever, because their racism was stronger than their code of ethics. A person that just couldn't do anything but constantly worry about their life being taken because of where they lived. And how do you raise your children? How do you raise your children when you have to constantly pay attention to how somebody is going to treat you? Yeah. I can't even love anybody around me because I'm constantly thinking about that.
Right.
So now that we're here, all of those things that took place, it's all been just rising to the top. It's been boiled, it's boiled over when we saw that incident. That was one of the most disgusting videos that I ever seen in my life. Even police officers themselves was like, that was sick. That was sick.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
It's scary. I mean, your idea of the hunter, like
right.
You said, have you ever seen a hunter? Actually, never have, because that bothers me.
Right.
So it's like beyond disturbing that one human can do that to another human.
Right. Right.
Blah.
Right.
Yeah.
And to know that he has a chance of not being critiqued or challenged for what he's done.
Right.
That goes to show where we are as a society. If somebody, even if they're in a moment not thinking twice to do that in broad daylight in front of multiple people that are saying, yo, stop. He's saying, I can't breathe. Yeah. And also with the other officers, why people are so upset is because, as a community with the police, we always, the conversation about bad apples always comes up. Like, it's one bad apple. We can't let that dictate how we see all police officers. If that's the case, you shouldn't let what one black person does dictate how you see all black people in communities. But even with that, we're at odds because, the police will say that's a bad apple or that's not a bad apple. But the ones that people are saying, yo, you need to do something with that police officer, you'll be surprised at how many people get behind that police officer and support them and protect their image and their name in a way where you feel hopeless. You say, if we can't even agree with this video that we're both watching at the same time, what else can be talked about? What's the next step? How do we even come to any form of conclusion?
Right.
So this is the response of all of those things that has happened up to this point. And like I said, now that we have time, now that the news don't have too many other things to report, ain't no sports on, we can't go certain places, everybody has to pay attention to that. And that's how we got to where we are right now with the protests in pretty much every single state globally. The fish is probably protesting too. The cats and dogs, the clouds is protesting, and then inanimate objects is protesting. Everybody is on board. And anyone that's not on board, you have to ask yourself, why is it that so many people are on board right now, but you're not?
Right.
What is that?
Even whichever way you fall.
What is that?
Yeah.
Why?
Do you think that to me, hatred is built out of fear.
Right.
Whether that's fear of the unknown, but like when we were already, the pandemic has caused fear. We can't deny that. And everybody, it's caused some sort of anxiety or distress. So we're already in a state of fear. Do you think that has plummeted groups into feeling as strongly either direction? Because the pushback against Black Lives Matter has been frightening as well. Right. Like I guess the capacity of it, because we were already in such a state of fear, do you think that that's contributed also?
I believe so. Because, like I said, when it comes to programming, we're taught what to fear. You can take two people and have the same subject or instance that takes place, and one person is like, there's nothing to fear when it comes to that. Another person is like, there is everything to fear when it comes to that. And I think the fact that like I said, much was going on. So everything that we've been taught and that we felt ever since we were children up to adulthood, the news station that we watch, some trauma that we probably experienced as kids, whatever it may be, it all came out and it was directed towards this situation. So and also the people that were fearful of never speaking up are speaking up too. So some people are getting over their fear. Some people are living in their fear. It just depends on which side that you're on. And the fear, it's all about how you use that. How are you going to use that fear that you're overcoming or that you're living in within this moment? So I think fear plays a major role in why people are responding the way they're responding. But I think what's taking place more so than that are people that are overcoming their fears and speaking up and using their voices.
Right. It's been amazing, especially here in Columbus, just to see what has taken place every day.
Yeah.
Like, of course, because I'm a dork, I'm just blown away by the art downtown.
Right.
How all of these places, and seeing, when all of they started boarding up everywhere, the immediate cause was, let's get people in here and make them beautiful. Right. Show our support. Right. There are people at the State House. Right. Constantly. Right. And it has been peaceful. That, I think that, what do we call them? What's the term? I always call them like you get brave behind a computer, but there's somebody.
Keyboard warriors.
Keyboard warriors.
Internet thugs.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's a lot of them.
A lot of that. And that had been what had taken place. Because I would like to think, what would happen if George Floyd was murdered when a pandemic was not happening? That unfortunately, I don't want to think it, but it would have just gone on. That happened. Right. And everybody would have moved on. Would have moved on. Next little thing that happened.
I believe so. It would have been how we had so many previous incidents that were just like that, and how it seemed like as a society we just stepped over it, and there was another person that stepped over that to the next one, but we had time for this, and people responded. Yeah.
What has been a source of joy for you, I guess, in this time?
Well, doing what I've always been doing and maintaining the relationships that I've had with people. I consider myself to be someone that doesn't wait for pandemics or somebody to lose their life to engage or to talk or to be present or to go somewhere. That's just how I've been. And just being the same person that I've been before this has happened. But checking in with my friends is the best thing that I could do right now, because not only is it helpful to them, it's also therapeutic to me, because I know people that have been protesting and fighting for justice that are no longer alive. I know their families. Yeah. So sometimes after something happens and we move on, the families don't get to move on. They have to grieve for the rest of their life. And if you were close to a person that's no longer present, that was in the fight, it hurts you. And now you're like, I feel a sense of hopelessness because the person that was one of the strongest people ever that I saw and looked up to, they took their own life, or they just burnt out. They're not the same. They don't care anymore. All of these feelings start to fester up inside of somebody when things like this happen. And it's important to make sure you're checking in on those people and making sure that they're okay, because when you exert a high level of energy on anything, even if it's positive or negative, there has to be a rest period. When you're fighting justice, there's really no room to rest. But you have to remind some of those people, you have to rest. We all have different tolerance levels, and it's like exercising or lifting weights. Yeah, when you run, you're building up endurance. But if you keep on running, you're going to run out of air. Your heart's, I don't know if you don't have a heart attack. You have to be able to stop. But when people feel so strongly and passionate about something, and they're watching somebody lose their life in broad daylight with a knee on the back of their neck, you say, I'm going to fight until I die. Because that might be me next. Why not die fighting instead of die with a knee on my neck?
But you advocate everybody needs to take a rest.
Yeah.
Let somebody else.
Definitely, because I personally feel like we've made our point at protesting. Don't think it should just stop. But it's well known that if we need to do that, we'll do that as a community.
Yeah.
But there's different ways, and people are starting to take on different ways of activism, and that's money. Talking, boycotting, not putting your money towards things, taking your children away from certain schools or programs that are not on board with you obtaining justice for yourself, your future, and your community. Yeah. So, yeah.
And there's so many organizations that are finally speaking up. And we talked a little bit about that.
Yeah. And it's one of the issues that a lot of people are having with that is, are they only speaking up because it's convenient right now?
Because they feel like, we should say something so we don't lose business.
So we don't lose business, so they don't come at us and say we don't support them. Because it was a situation with Starbucks where there's people can't wear anything Black Lives Matter related, but people responded and they was like, okay, you can wear Black Lives Matter stuff. But if anyone remembers, Starbucks had a occurrence where police was called on 2 black men that went there and didn't order anything. And I forgot how it all happened, but they went to court and Starbucks was like, oh yeah, we're going to do some training and we're going to shut every store down one day to make sure that we talk about racial inequalities and issues and problems. But look what happened. Yeah. And that response genuine? Yeah, you can wear Black Lives Matter stuff after we just said 24 hours ago you can't. Is that genuine? Or is that just another way to pull the wool over people's eyes and say, I can maintain my business and I can get people to not ostracize me and break me down and talk about our history of not ever supporting anything related to something like Black Lives Matter or civil rights in a meaningful way, not just a way where you make a status or you say, oh yeah, I'm friends with this person or I'll support that. Actually stepping forward and doing that. Yeah. So that's something that people are trying to figure out right now. Are all of the support that's coming out, is it genuine? Yeah. Or is it bullshit?
And I guess the way that I see that is that's where it's going to be hard because it's going to take time to see that change happen.
Yeah.
It's not about we at blah, blah, blah feel blah, 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 blah. Great. You know how to type. That's kind of where it feels. Right. Good for you. Right. You know how to put graphics on a piece of paper. Right. And say that you support this cause, but it's what's going to change?
Right. Exactly.
And that I guess to me is where I don't know how corporations do it. Thank God, because I don't have a corporation. But
right.
That's where for me, if I am going to say I support Black Lives Matter, I gotta start here.
Right. Right.
I need to read.
Right.
I need to talk.
Right.
I need to shut up.
Right.
And educate myself because I don't know. Right. I am an ignorant human being.
Right.
And just like you said, with the conditioning, I don't want to think of myself racist, but I have to look into everything I've ever said, anything I've ever thought,
right,
and question it.
Right.
You know what I mean?
I know exactly what you mean.
That's where this has brought me. And it's not comfortable, and it shouldn't be.
Right. Right.
I think.
Right.
If I'm this is great. No.
Right.
No,
right.
It's not.
Right.
It's
right.
horrible.
It's beyond horrible.
And it's not done.
Right.
Which is good.
Right.
Because I don't think that there should be today ends the
no. Right.
But kind of like we talked about when we were sitting over at the table. Sorry, cameras. I have a tendency to wave to things that you can't see. It's like on podcasts when I make noise and you don't know what I'm talking about. We're still learning this format. All right? We'll get there.
Right. Right.
But we were talking about train of thought gone.
You talk about comfort and discomfort.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
We had Chipotle.
That was good. That was good.
But just about how this is shaking everything up. And I don't know. How much is too much, I guess?
Of what?
Of everything. Of being the, what's the word again? I want to say armchair.
Oh, the keyboard warriors and all of them. As far as somebody standing up and speaking out.
Yeah.
It's
either for or against.
I'll say have some context behind what you're saying. Don't just say it to say it because most people can point out who's just talking because they ain't got nothing else to do. Being on the internet and being able to type something, regardless if you're for or against something, I feel like it gives you a false sense of security and courage that you wouldn't have if you were face to face with someone. Right. So regardless of if you for something or against something, make sure that you're really about it, because sooner or later you're going to be face to face with somebody. Yeah. So if you are standing up for Black lives right now and you're for the cause, you are going to see somebody that's going to ask you or check you or question if you're legitimate, and you're going to have to show that. So all I can say to those people is be prepared for whatever you say, be prepared to back it up. Yeah. Period. Right. So that's that. Yeah. That is that. I can't even add nothing else to it.
And it goes beyond feeling at this point. Like, it can't be feeling. Right. What we feel is, like you said, what we've been conditioned to feel. Right. Good or bad. Right. Because there's a lot of good out there too. Yeah. You know, and there's a lot of people that just love because that's who they are. Right. It doesn't make any sense. You know, like love is love is love is love. Right. Why? I don't know. It's just the way it's supposed to be. Right. You know? Right. Right. I think that there's so much good that is coming out of this. Would you agree to that? Like,
I believe so, because people are coming together that usually would not come together. People are listening to each other that usually wouldn't listen to each other. And people feel like there's nothing else to do right now but to fight for what they believe in. So when you take a group of people that are fighting for what they believe in, something is going to happen. Something is always going to happen. People from all walks of life are coming together to address this specific situation. It's been happening, but it's been amplified because of our current state and how people feel and what they've been through and what they saw. It's amplified. So I think that this is just the time for people to respond and to address those thoughts and feelings that they did have. Why wait any longer? And there is, like I said, we're not going back to normal. No. There is no going back to normal, what we consider normal to be. A new normal is on the rise. And like I said, people have to figure out what they're going to do. Right. Right.
And it's not going to be much longer. I mean, this pandemic is going to end someday. But even with that, we're not going back to normal.
And never, nah. It's the pandemic already did its damage to some people. Yeah. And now what's taking place right now with the protests, the Black Lives Matter, the police killings, all of it plays a role in things about the shift as well. Yeah. So I don't know what that's going to look like, but like I said, I know it's a major shift taking place, and I know people better be ready.
Still scary.
Yeah, scary.
And beautiful, weirdly, at the same time. I mean, that's what I think about the art downtown. It's like, we shouldn't be boarding everything up and shutting everything down. Right. It's beautiful. Right. Sorry, No, I'm glad you're socially distanced from me.
You fine.
Maybe this is really why we should socially distance.
You fine. Right.
You're a spit tolerance.
You fine. You fine.
So, during the protests, there's been a great blend of racial demographics. Yeah. Speak on that.
So, when you ask that question, something I think back to is a while ago, Nikki Giovanni was a poet, and she had came to Columbus a while ago, and she had spoke, and
where was she?
It was at Columbus State.
Okay.
And I was just listening to her talk, and something that she said that I was like, oh wow, I never really thought about it like that. She said there was some horrible things that was going on between black people and white people. But she said there was some good things happening too that helped us get to where we are right now. It just wasn't documented as much as the bad stuff.
Yeah.
And that it's always been allies, it's always been support, but not to the extent to where it has gotten right now. We're just now getting to a point where some white people are comfortable with saying, I am on board with what they're talking about.
Yeah.
I'm going to call it out, and I'm not going to let that exist in my space. Not with my children, not with the person that I love. I'm not doing that anymore. And it's needed because as Black people, we are generationally disenfranchised, placed in poverty, excluded. All of these things that have happened to us puts us in a position where we don't have enough power, money, reach, control of the media. We don't have these things. So we can use it to our benefit, but when it's a back and forth, somebody that does have money, that does have control of the media, they can control the image. They can tell people what to think and what to feel. And that's the part where we always have to fight as Black people.
Yeah. But
right now, with the white people that are speaking up, and not even just the white people, but it's people from different countries that are.
This is global.
This is people from different countries are even on board with that because they experience things that are very similar. Right. And the reason they can get behind the Black Lives Matter movement is because it is a representation of so many different things that take place with anyone that has dealt with oppression. And the enslavement of Black people in America is the direct thing that happened here. Right. So if we find a way to address how Black people are feeling, to address the oppression that they've dealt with for this long, we can find out how to address anything. Because that was direct. That wasn't an accident. That was that they deliberately did that. Yeah. So if we can find a way to undo all of those things that's been woven into our society and put into our history, and if we can do that, we can figure anything out when it comes to oppression. Yeah. So that's why I believe so many people of different races and cultures and religious affiliations have got on board, because they understand that. And as we're educating ourselves more and we're not allowing everyone to tell us what to think and believe, we found a way to connect with each other. Yeah. And now we're pushing forward.
I find too, I'm a little older than you. Okay, I'm old. But I find, and Ben and I have talked about this, like I see it with a lot of people our old fart age, that our parents think very differently than we do. Yeah. Which gives me hope for our next generation. Mm-hmm. Like, enough of us that now have little kids, they are not going to be brought up the same way that we are. And my gosh, the history book for only the year 2020 is going to be huge. Right.
But it's going to be major.
Like, for them to be able to see, and you work with little kids, like, this is one hell of a generation that's going to come up from this. Yeah. And I pray for the better. Right. Not having seen anything before this. You know what I mean? Right. The kids that are born within the last 5 to 10 years, this is a different world than what we were raised in, which is good. Right. Right. Like, already good. Right. That, and seeing all these kids at the protest. And I mean, they're there. They didn't take an Uber there. They're there with their parents.
Right.
But,
right.
It's important for these kids to see the reality of what's happening.
Right.
To feel the grossness of it. To ask, well, why? Right. Right. Let's figure it out. Right. Right. And I mean, again, there are so many resources to educate yourself. Right. To figure out why do my parents feel differently? Not mine specifically, but why? Oh, because they're from this time period. There is not the education. There's not the
right. And something to point out with that is, time. Laws change, but minds don't. They don't. Just because racism may be declared, something that people should take much more serious, it doesn't necessarily mean that the people are going to make changes. Right. They'll find a way to be racist in a more covert way. They can find different ways to reinvent racism and apply it to situations, whether it be their work life, their connections and friendships that they had. They're going to find a way to make racism evolve. There's so many different ways that you can do that, and it's been done time and time again. I said that's why once people figure out and they catch up to what it is, it takes a while for anyone to listen to people that are saying this is still racist, and that's when people get angry and upset. It's like, you're not even bothering to listen.
That's where I get scared, Donte, is like there's some people we went to high school with that think very differently than I do. And, for never having chatted on social media before, became very active in the last couple of weeks. How in the world does a mind change? Because that's where I start to feel hopeless. It's like, it doesn't matter what I say. You are so deeply rooted. How does that, like, for me, it changes because I, like you, have conversations with people. The more people that are in my world, the more ideas I have a chance to look at. Right. But not everybody can do that. Right. I mean, there's going to be some people that grow up entirely white suburb, that go to entirely white college, and just are not involved in a place where they see or have conversations. Like, how does a mind change without...
So my personal...
That's a big question, sorry.
No, that's fine. My personal opinion is it all depends on how much you're willing to tolerate. Some people look at that and say, I'm not even going to tolerate that or deal with it, because there's certain things people can do or say to where you're like, oh no, that's something that I don't allow in my space, around my family, around anything that I'm doing. That's not who I am as an individual, so you can keep that away from me. Like, if somebody's a murderer, it's like, oh, stay back, I don't want nothing to do with you. Or once you find out what that is, you can decide on your own, I'm not dealing with this. For me, I'm a person that pays attention and listens to everything that people are saying and doing, because it kind of opens up my eyes to what to expect next. So someone like that, I would just watch them, see who agrees with them, and take it all in and find out how I can organize, strategize around what they're saying. Because a lot of times it's nothing but regurgitated rhetoric that people constantly share amongst each other. A lot of people not using their own minds most of the time. So all you have to do is find out where they're getting this information from, and you can find out how to combat that. Right. But I personally would say don't even, if someone's emotionally invested in something, there's very little you can do to change their mind. Some people have made their minds up and they're ready to die by certain things they believe in. And the only way things could change for them is death. There has been some cases where it's been stories where some people just straight up racist, and then their kids have like a mixed child, and they like, I don't want nothing to do with them. But later on in life, I don't know what happens, but they just break, and they're like, I can't believe that I felt the way I felt. I can't believe I said the things I said. I don't know what was wrong with me, and I never go back to that life again. So everyone's different.
I think when it becomes personal is when it makes a difference.
Right. When anything becomes personal, that's when it makes a difference.
Yeah. I mean, sorry, go ahead.
No, I'm just like, if it's not at your front door, of course you don't care about it. You don't care about it at all. So I've seen some people that I didn't think they would ever change. They've changed. There were some people that I never thought had any issues, show that they did have issues. So it's all about who you are as an individual, what is too much for you, but overall, it's nothing you should tolerate or sit there and engage with. Yeah. Get rid of that. Right. That should not be in your life. Right. At all.
It's, well, I mean, even with the coronavirus.
Right.
All of these people say, well, this isn't real. But have you met someone who's dying from it?
Right. Right.
But again, that's where it becomes personal, is when you can attach a name of somebody that's within your life that's where it's hard. It's like there are certain sections of people that will never be involved in these circles, whether they've chosen to keep themselves or move themselves out of a place where you can have lots of different thoughts and opinions. And I love living in Columbus for that reason. We have a lot of diversity in all shapes, sizes, forms, cultures, race, and that's what I love about it, is that my kids are going to be in a place where it's not abnormal to have lots of different colors and lots of different sexual identities in one classroom. You're like, meh, cool.
Right. To where it's normal now. Yeah. Because some people invest in opposing anything that's different than what they've been taught or their routine. Yeah. And one of the biggest issues I feel that white Americans have is, in some instances, they can afford to remain ignorant. Right. They don't have to live around people that are different from them. Yeah. They don't have to go to school around people that are different than them. And if they do go to a school where people are different than them, sometimes the culture caters to how they grew up, the politically correct way to be a college student, to have someone that can support you. Those are society was set up by them. Yeah. So whatever it is they're doing, the direction that they're going, they just have a little bit of a head start in just in so many different situations. Some situations they got a major head start. They monopolized a lot of things to where nobody else can have what they have or have support like they have support or gain finances the way they can gain finances. But it's, if you can afford to remain ignorant, what's the point of changing? Yeah. If I don't even have to.
Do you think that's where a lot of...
Yeah, that's where a lot of people are.
And they don't... Peaceful, blissful ignorance.
Yeah, you don't if I don't have to change anything, why? If I'm always right, and I have people that can back me up with what I'm saying, that's right. If my actions are always right and justified, why not? Yeah. Change what? What's your problem? All you have to do is ... Yeah. What you don't understand is ... Yeah. I don't have to do anything if I can afford to be ignorant, and there is a society that supports that.
Yeah. It makes sense, and it also makes me look at so many facets of my own life. And that's probably where we need to be, you know, just of being cognizant and being honest with ourselves. Yeah. Like, again, you know, this is one of those places that's uncomfortable and should be. Yeah. We're not supposed to be sitting back, relaxed, like, we fought the good fight.
Right. Nah.
No. And I do know, and I've seen it. Of course, social media is horrifically up and down these days. But you see, when is all this going to be over? Right.
And I kind of feel like it's, people look at the physical aspect of what's taking place, and they feel like it's over when it calms down. Yeah. But any physical altercation or engagement, after that, there's an emotional period. Right. There's a psychological period that you have to go through. There's a spiritual period that you have to go through. There's so many things that happens after that. And that goes back to what I was saying about people that can afford to be ignorant. Yeah. All they have to think about is the fight being over with after that. Right. The people that were there and present and doing the work, they, for the rest of their life, they're stuck with that. Yeah. So it's the fight, the way things are set up, if they don't change, there's always going to be a fight. Sometimes that fight gets silenced and it gets drained out, and the voices and the people don't have much of a platform, but they always find a way to be heard. And if you keep opposing and pushing those people down, you're going to get a major response sooner or later. Right. Period. Yeah.
That's well, and in this time of kind of questioning anyway, when does this go back to normal? It won't.
Nah, it ain't.
And we got that introduction with the coronavirus.
Right. Yeah, ain't nothing going back to normal.
It's not. And it can't. And it shouldn't. I I mean, even something as stupid as like, we should probably be, wiping down our bathrooms a little bit more. I mean, we're already learning little things that are going to be completely different moving ahead. Right. They always talk about like 9/11 and how did that really change anything? Yeah, it did. Yeah. Flight travel, completely different. I mean, it's hard to think back to what travel was like prior to 9/11. I remember my parents used to walk me to the gate if I was flying alone. Wow. Can't even do that anymore.
Dang, I only flew on an airplane once my whole life, so.
My dad worked for the airline industry.
Oh, okay.
So
I only flew once. It ain't my thing, but if I gotta fly, I will, because I don't like driving places. That take too long.
Where are you gonna fly when you get to fly?
I don't even know, because like I said, it really ain't my thing, but I know I'm gonna go to sleep and then have somebody wake me up once we get where we going, because. It just say it really ain't my thing.
Do you have I know people that are afraid of flying sometimes have the notion of humans should not be that far above the earth.
Yeah, because we higher in the sky than we are above the clouds. I'm looking at the clouds and I'm like, I'm in the cloud. Yeah. I've been looking at them my whole life on the ground. Now I'm up here with them. Yeah. Why are we this high?
Right. Is this normal?
No, it's not.
No.
So
humans were not made to fly.
It's not some people have no issue with flying. I'll do it, but it is not my thing. Yeah. Nah, it ain't.
I think growing up because when we were kids and because we could fly for free, being family of, we would fly to Dallas for dinner and then fly home. So we kind of grew up with it, and I got really excited. There was one time growing up that apparently there was really bad turbulence, and everybody on the plane is freaking out.
I don't experience that.
Flying, and we're going, wee! I think we made an entire plane of people really mad at us. Because you get that like feeling in your stomach, and we just thought it was the greatest ride we'd ever had.
Yeah, that is not my thing.
Dying.
That's not my thing at all.
Sorry. Let's travel back.
Right.
So you're an advocate for the community. Always have been. You are a conversation starter. I like to think of you as a people mover.
Okay, I'll take that.
And where do you stand on the community and police relationship right now?
So
probably more so for Columbus because that's where we are. But
so
in general,
and just in general for me, the way some people know me as a person that is for community and police relations. Yeah. I've been on the news for it. I've written blogs about it. Yeah. I've gotten interviews because of it. And the way that got started was, I remember there was an incident at a church that I was working at, and it was like a after school camp. So, it's a whole bunch of kids, some younger kids, some older kids, and there was an altercation that took place with one of the teenage boys and one of the workers at the church. And when we got outside, somebody called the police. And it was like 2 police cars and a police truck out there. And my immediate response was like, all right, Donte, you see where this is about to go? How can I keep the 30 kids in this church safe? How can I keep this young man safe? How can I keep the people that I work with safe? And I'm looking at the police. I'm like, oh, they ready to respond to what's taking place. And the first thing that came to my mind is like, you know what, Donte, say something to the police. Just calm them down. So I my first thought, just go over to the police and tell them, look, I got this. Let me go talk to the young man. Yeah. And I went over to the young man and I told him, I have your back. What I need you to do is go home right now, and I will come down to your house and talk to you once I sort everything out, because you cannot win this battle right here. I will talk to you and we'll figure out what we can do afterwards. Yeah. And I was able to get him home, talk to the people that I worked with, talk to the police, keep all of the young kids safe. And after that moment, I said, I think I just experienced something I have to dig deeper into. How can I continuously protect my community and get everybody home safe before something major happens, before somebody dies. So I continued to dig into that. And it got to a point where police officers in the neighborhood would call me. And before, people call the police would call me or ask me like, yo, Donte, something's going on. And I'd be like, you know what? Y'all cool. Y'all stay where y'all at. I'll go check that out. So like kind of being a liaison and letting people know like, look, the police gonna come over here. Right. Whatever y'all doing or what's going on, shut that down. Let that go. I don't know what it is, but chill. And for me, like I said, it's a lot of people that may not really approve of that, but when you are by yourself in your community, the people that you work with, you're going to do what you have to do to survive. Right. And I can't protect people 24 hours throughout the day. When I was there, I could, but I'm thinking, how can I leave a long lasting impression on the police and the community where they both trust me? And if they see each other when I'm not around, they can at least be like, well, we both know Donte. Donte, that's one of the cops that Donte know. The cops like, well, that's one of the guys that Donte knows and one of the boys that he mentors. So when people are familiar with each other, there's just a sense of understanding and respect that exists to where if there is an engagement or altercation, you may handle it a little bit differently. And for me, like I said, for my community, where I was at, where I was working, the kids I was with, I was able to establish that. But I do know that just because I was able to do that in my community, that's not what is happening everywhere else. Right. Because I was able to do that in one particular area in Columbus, not on the west side, not on the north side, not on the south side. But your community. My immediate in my face where I was at community. I was able to do that. So that's what it's always going to be for me. That's what I am, and that's why I believe so many people, activists, police officers, pastors, white people, black people, cats, dogs, and fish, everybody can look at Donte and say, well, he's pretty consistent in what he talks about and what he does, and I stay in my lane and I don't force nobody to do anything they don't want to do. I understand some people ain't comfortable with the police. You ain't gotta be comfortable. Right. But for me, like I said, my community, I'm going to try and find a way to advocate for peace right there, then and there in that moment, and even when I'm not present. Because I can't save everybody all day, every day. But I can sacrifice myself and say, I'm going to try and bridge some type of gap and make things work to where no one has to be concerned or think too deeply about that. And like I said, for what I've done in where I was at, cool. I'm good with that. But I recognize that my experience is not everybody else's experience. So I or any other person or like the police officers that I know, we can't use what happened with us for different situations. I can't use my friend police officer be like, well, look at this police officer. This police officer ain't that police officer. Nobody can use, the police can't use me be like, well, Donte ain't them. Somebody else probably had a major, serious, horrible experience with the multiple police officers. And that's where they're coming from. But the fact that I'm the type of person that will address something, look you in the face and talk to you, I took the initiative to do that. I'm hoping that other people can do that too. If that's not their way, that's fine. That's my way though. That's how I operate. I'm hoping that the police can do that as well. Yeah. To go places where people tell them not to go, places they uncomfortable. Go there and learn something. If people got something negative to say, all right, but if that's where you are, you have to engage. Yeah.
I love it. No, and that's what I know. There's been a lot of time.
Because I was about to go for another 30 minutes, but yeah, I was like, yeah.
I can't. I'm sorry. I can't sit on this.
Yeah.
Just to bring it to my. We're still learning this format. We're gonna get there. I digress.
Yeah.
There's been a lot of talk of more social workers, especially because they have the training not to like break things up, but to be the diffuser, kind of like what you did. I mean, where do you sit on that?
I feel that that's legitimate. That's something that should happen.
Yeah.
Because a lot of times you hear police officers share how hard their job is. And usually they'll say, I'm not just a police officer. I have to be a social worker.
Yeah. Counselor.
I got to be a counselor. I got to be a parent. I got to be all of these things. But if we had more social workers and more counselors and more parents with support and funding and placed in those environments, the police wouldn't have to do all of those things. And that gets into the conversation that a lot of people are having right now about defunding the police. And some people are thinking like, oh, it's just taking all their money. It's not just taking their money away. It's taking that money and reallocating it in different areas. And the police take a huge chunk of the money. And I just think to myself like, wow, why is it? Because I had watched the superintendent of Columbus City Schools. I work for Columbus City Schools. So I watched the superintendent on a panel, and she like basically almost was begging, saying we need more money for the school. Why is the superintendent begging for money for the school, for the children and that live in poverty? We've known this for years. How is it that we haven't taken the money that we have and placed it into the schools to support them much more? Because why? It's like police officers have what they need to be police officers. They don't like the teachers don't have what they need to be teachers. If they don't say like, please, you a police officer now, but you gotta go buy your own vest. But teachers gotta buy their own supplies. And it's like dependent on the poor parents too to support the classroom and buy things and help out in a way where they may not always be able to where people got to come and do book bag drives and give pencils and do all of this stuff all the time. But it's kind of hurtful because you are in this environment where everybody has this conversation about the kids and what they go through, but nobody ever shows up. How to tell the kid you can be anything you want to be, not when they live in this environment, not when they live like you tell you follow your dreams. They live a nightmare, a real life nightmare. And one of the simple things, first steps that can take place to assist those children in that environment is for more money to go into the school. Simple as that. We can hire more people. We can have more support. We can have more psychologists. We can have more social workers that can address those situations. I can't tell you how many times police came to the school themselves because of a situation, and they looked at the teacher or the principal. They was like, I ain't got nothing to do with this. It calls safety and security because I'm not touching this. So they themselves understand that when it comes to being present in school or any instances or altercations, they don't always have to be there. This would actually be helpful for them and make their job easier. Like it literally would. It would be something that you wouldn't have to worry about. And then you wouldn't have people that talk down on those communities and those people and those kids in those schools. If you really believe that that's how you feel and you're not doing anything to change it, you're not supporting it, then that's what you want. You want it to be that way. You're not looking for any change to take place. If you're cognizant enough to talk about what's going on in that environment and you do nothing about it, you're supporting it. So first things first is I definitely believe that defunding the police and taking some of that money and putting it towards the school and other things that we need money for can help and make their job easier. Period. It's really a no-brainer.
Well, and I mean, you talk about the burnout with the job. That can contribute to a number of problems where some of this stuff might be stemming from. You know, and that's a mental health issue. But wow, we could go on for like hours. I don't even know what time it is. Wow. We have so much work to do.
Yeah.
As society and as a nation. And I think what our typical human response is, well, I'm going to work for now, but it'll get better.
Mm-hmm.
That I fear that a lot of what's happening now starts declining. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Well, I posted this today, but
Right.
I'm kind of more interested in catching up on Schitt's Creek today.
Right,
Like just the momentum not falling. Like, what do you suggest that we that are standing behind this continue to do so that the momentum doesn't fall? Because like you said, I mean, not everybody's going out to the protests. And that's fine.
Right.
Not everybody is funding or donating because they can't.
Right.
That's fine.
Right.
But like, how do we individually, how do you recommend like keeping the momentum going and continuing conversations or starting new conversations?
Yeah. Well, I believe right now, the way things are happening, it's going to happen automatically. But for anyone that is interested in trying to find multiple ways to engage or to be supportive, is to observe, figure out where you're most helpful and capable of responding to a situation or supporting. Because if you try to support in a way that's not genuine and it's not coming from your heart, you may be exploiting somebody thinking you're doing a good thing, but it turns into exploitation because some people feel like all you gotta do is donate. Oh, just throw some money at it. That can easily turn into a form of exploitation as time goes on. It gets watered down and it just becomes something that people can do. And then they have this self-serving feeling where, oh, I donated to the foundation. Yeah, the foundation. Look, they took a picture with a little black kid. Of course they're doing great things. There's so much more to do than that. It can be someone that you know, a friend. If they need some type of support, and supporting is active. Another way to be active is to support somebody that you know, the person in your face. You don't have to find somebody that's in the worst conditions.
Right.
And sometimes those people that are in front of your face are in the worst conditions, but they don't always share that. The stuff that they're going through, the things that they're feeling. If you can support somebody, that is also another form of activism because you are being active. Because a lot of they are parents. They have jobs. They have so many roles that they're attempting to fill, and then they're dealing with what's taking place in society too. That's a lot on somebody's plate. So you can't be fearful of being present with that person. If you find out who that person is, don't be fearful of being by their side and being present, because that's when people are complacent with what's taking place. Right. So if you know somebody's in pain, you know they're hurting, you know they need some type of support, be there for them. Because we wait. Usually I was talking to a friend of mine. I'm like, man, sometimes we do wait until somebody loses their life to jump into and help and do things in their name or check on their family. Usually when somebody gets killed, a college steps up and like, you can come to our school. We pay for your school for free. Why don't you do that in the first place? Right. Why my dad gotta get killed for me to have a education? For me to go to college. Why does it have to be that? So there's so many ways people can be active in a person's life that's beyond the protest. I said that's a vital part, but I think we've made it very clear that if we have to protest, we will, and you gonna see us. But there's so many other things that people can check themselves on too about being angry and upset in comments that they make. And like I said, latent racism, covert racism, not understanding our historical context and how certain things play a role in racism. Educate yourself in those areas so you can recognize if you're contributing to it or not. There's so many lectures and videos and books that you can read.
And it's all out there.
And it's all out there, but that being able to recognize if something is said that applies to you, that is not where you shut down. That's not where you quit. That's not where you stop. That's where you say, okay, I recognize that now. Let's dig deeper and address why that is. Why am I able to check every single box off?
Yeah.
Why? And once you figure out the answer to that, that's when I believe anybody that wants to support or a white ally, whoever it may be, should get involved, because your involvement can turn into exploitation. Right. It could turn into derailing the movement and making it more about your allyship than the actual movement. I personally believe a lot of people are present because they dislike Donald Trump. I don't think a lot of people really care that much. But if anything that opposes what Donald Trump said, they'd be present for that because they want to prove him wrong because he's a dumbass. Because you're a dumbass. You're a dumbass. Yeah. But do you actually care and believe and understand and educated on this specific situation that you're present within the moment? Because if you're present and then you leave, you've altered this whole movement and put your stamp on it. And you've taken away from the momentum that the people have created in a way that they probably never have before, all on their own. Yeah. But when it comes to, like I said, the media and the people in control, they can take whatever and they can create their own narrative and story with it. So when the narrative and story has shifted and the people that have been there from the very beginning don't have the same amount of money and media control to combat that, now everything goes back to the way it was, and that's not beneficial for the people that have been fighting.
Right. And that's not changed.
Nah.
It's not changed.
Nah, not at all.
I love this. I like how Donte understands me well enough to know that she's going to go back into dorkism.
Yeah, I know that.
I know you do.
It's cool. It's cool.
I'm so thankful for literally getting up every day and seeing something that you have posted. As silly as that sounds.
Right.
It's not, no, because from the minute I met you, it's like, first off, why have we not met before?
Right.
But you and I are similar in that I want to hear your story.
Yeah.
Give me a piece of you.
Yeah.
Make it real. I don't care if it's not pretty.
Right.
I just, give me something. Let me understand you.
Right.
And I think, that's why you and I have connected from the beginning.
Yeah. Again,
like we talked about, yours are deeper and mine are usually like, what song was in your head when you woke up today?
Right.
But it's a way of, I think you've always wanted to connect people.
Right. Right. That's my thing.
You were almost prepared to be doing more because you've been doing this, the advocacy, and let me take you from A and let me take you from B.
Right.
Hey, meet each other.
Yeah.
Listen.
Yeah, that's important. That's important. Like I said, sometimes there's things that people really shouldn't even have to talk about, and if they don't want to, that's fine. But I don't feel like, some people are like, man, I wanted to respond, but I couldn't, and I'm like, that's fine because I know you thought about it. Yeah. And that's really what I want. I want people to think about how they feel, what they're going through, how they can apply this question to their life and their experiences, and think beyond that moment. What comes next after I've experienced this. Like the last question I asked, like, what is self-love? Because self-love is something that people talk about and advocate for. This is what you should do. This is when you should do it. But do we have different definitions of what that is? Yeah. Can that definition be destructive to a person that may have experienced something completely different than you in your perceived definition? So you have to listen to what other people are saying and take in bits and pieces of information and say, okay, this is what works for me. And it's like the questions, they ain't no test. It's not a test or anything like that, or trying to measure your intellectual knowledge. Do you get this? No. What do you feel? Why do you feel that way? Has that helped you with your life? Are you responding like that because somebody told you to? Or is that really what you think?
And I think that's, I don't know if it does the same for you, but seeing those answers, it doesn't necessarily, when I ask even what song did you wake up with in your head, it doesn't change my life per se, but it gives people a place to share something. Yeah. We don't get that very much.
Yeah, that's, we have so many titles and obligations put on us from the moment we wake up all the way to the moment we go to sleep. And we don't have time with ourselves. Yeah. to ask ourselves a question and actually answer it.
Mm-hmm.
You know, how do I feel?
Yeah.
I've been in pain. I've been feeling this pain in my leg a lot, but I've been ignoring it because I got to go to work. I got to take care of my kids.
Right.
But later on in life, as time goes on, you recognize that your leg is in a serious condition and you've avoided it this whole time. So that same thing when it comes to our minds and what we're feeling, we put off our feelings and our thoughts and our experiences and our traumas because we have to show up in a world that doesn't give us time to show up for ourselves. So that's just a moment for us to really think about what's taking place in our minds and in our lives and say, I have the floor. This is what I think. This is what I feel. And it's not a debate. You know, it's not even about proving yourself.
Right.
It's about showing yourself. What is your perspective? What's on your heart? What makes sense to you? Why did you do this? And usually what happens is people that don't know each other will say, oh,
You too, huh?
you two,
Yeah.
I went through the same exact thing as you. Or I felt what you felt. Or I never thought about it like that. That's all. We need more spaces like that at work, at our jobs, at church, because all these places require us to wear certain clothes, to talk a certain way, to say certain things, to be here at this time and leave at this time. We don't have a space where people can dive into themselves and be who they are. That's not good. Because that weighs on a person's conscience and their spirit and their feelings and their emotions. And then you're a person that you don't even know who you are. Because you've given so much of this person to everybody else. When it's time to be yourself, it don't even feel good. So I just, it's like, being vulnerable with you is not good. Vulnerable with other people is cool. Right. But vulnerable with yourself, oh no. I actually got to think about how I feel. Oh no. No, I don't want to think about that.
Thank you.
So yeah, I want people to have that moment to be vulnerable with themselves and other people. And the simplest way to get that to happen is to ask somebody a question and really be curious about what their answer is.
Yeah. I love you.
Thank you.
Where can people find you, hear you, see you, hang out with? I mean, we can't really hang out much.
Right, not right now.
Hashtag coronavirus.
Right. So I'm all, if you want to see me and what I'm doing, Facebook is my main usage of social media. That's DONTE WOODS SPIKES Donte Woods-Spikes. You can join in on the conversations that I always have on my page. But if you want to follow me on Instagram or Twitter, that's Dante's Eyes, DONTESEYES, Dante's Eyes. And I also have a website too, where you can be kept up with things that I'm doing. If you want to come to an event or a conference that I'm speaking at, that's www.DanteWoods-Spikes.com.
I want an event and a conference so bad right now.
Right.
That's all I'm asking to be done is Corona. But
right.
Also wearing my mask and being safe.
Yeah. So I got a couple of things coming up. A lot of virtual things coming up.
Yeah.
So
that's good.
Definitely be on the lookout for that. Connecting with artists, other people that have given.
Arts are alive.
Right. It's on point now.
Yeah.
It's on point.
Really cool.
Yeah, they active.
There's been some really amazing things that happen.
Yeah.
And people doing new stuff.
Yeah.
I love that.
Yeah, finding new ways to exist within a time frame where we can't do what we normally do and be present like we're normally present. People are becoming more creative with how they sell their art, how they produce their art, how they engage with people. I think this has taught a lot of people social media marketing because they can't be present with people. Right. So they picked up a new skill that they probably don't even know they have right now.
Yeah.
So that's a good thing too.
We as actors have learned a little more about film acting. Yeah. Maybe more than we wanted to know.
You know, it's all part of the shenanigans that's going on in the world, you know?
It is. Yeah. You know, it's just like weaving that yarn through everything. I mean, just
Right.
It's incredible.
Exactly.
Donte, you're the best.
Thank you.
Well, thank you. We obviously are in a brand new format. We're really excited to try this. So follow Speak Easily on... This isn't going well.
Can you put that in the outtakes? Like,
No, that's
like when you doing a promotional video, like...
That's going in.
Do you think that Ben would ever cut something dumb that I said? No, it would be prominently featured at the top.
If it makes you feel better, it's mostly laziness.
Fair. Thank you for joining us
Right.
on another installment of Speak Easily with Krista Stoffer.
Yeah.
There's a thing. It's weird. Then I have never mind. So follow us on Facebook under Speak Easily with Krista Stoffer. Instagram. I think Speak Easily podcast. Are we on that? I should know this by now. I run the page. It's really smart. We're on somewhere. Just look it up. But follow us on SoundCloud, on iTunes. Be good to one another. Be safe. Take the time you need to do what you need to do for you. Okay?
And watch out for those bath salt zombies. Boxland Media. Think big.